Well, my name is Shawn Buckley with the Natural Health Product Protection Association, and this is video 3 in a series on how we're all in the middle of this manufactured consent exercise that Health Canada and the mainstream media is putting us through concerning cloned meat. And so you might ask fairly, well, what is manufactured consent? What are they talking about? This is a manufactured consent exercise. And manufacturing consent, it's just a name that Noam and Chomsky came up with in their book, Manufacturing Consent, to describe when the government and the media basically get together and manipulate you and manufacture your consent. So where we are is that clearly a decision's been made, and we'll explain in other videos really what's behind this, and it'll shock you, although it's in Health Canada's own document. I mean, it's like they have to tell you what their plans are so that if you don't take steps to protect yourself, they're not responsible morally or ethically for what happens to you when you don't heed their warning. But in any event, a decision's clearly been made. We want Canadians to eat cloned meat, and we want them to eat it without labeling. Now, there's no way they could just come out and say, you know what, somebody's finally gotten through the approval process for cloned meat. Now, that'd be a real tough one because there've been no human safety studies. And as long as you treat it as a novel food, whoever wants to sell it has to prove it's safe. Well, they're going to fail on that if it's truly looked at in a fair way. So a decision's been made. We want Canadians eating cloned meat without labeling. Now, they understand it's going to take years to get us there without the labeling. And they understand there's no way we would accept cloned meat being entered into our food supply without labeling. They know this. So, but they don't want us to actually look at the real issue. And the real issue is should we be having cloned meat at all? Should we ban the cloning of farm animals outright, like the European Union has? View video 1 in this series. No. You can't talk about issues like that if you want to get Canadians to eat cloned meat. So what you do in manufacturing consent is you create a decoy issue. They can't have us asking the question, should this be allowed at all? Or even go further and say, should we follow the EU and ban the cloning of all farm animals? No, we can't go there. So we can't mention what's happened in the EU. We can't mention that the 27 member countries of the EU don't eat cloned meat. No, they have to divert us onto a different topic. And so they picked the labeling. And this is actually really well done when you think about it. So Health Canada comes out and they say, hey, and this is just on their website. They say, we're going to move cloned meat out of the novel food category, which means that it can enter our food supply like any other food. There doesn't have to be any specific labeling that it's cloned meat. Now, curiously, and I mean, I practice extensively in this area. I mean, awful things happen all the time, like just outrageous things that happen with Health Canada. And, we try to raise attention to it. The mainstream media won't go anywhere near it. But on this one, my gosh, the mainstream media just erupted. Like, do a Google search, Clone Meat Canada. You're going to see story after story. I mean, Winnipeg Sun, Global, National Post, you name it. And they're all singing with one voice. And they're all singing about the decoy issue. So they're all saying, Health Canada has decided to allow cloned meat to be eaten. So to enter our food supply without any labeling. Don't you think there should be labeling? Canadians want labeling. Labeling. Oh, of course it's safe. And they'll cite the odd expert, usually the same one, saying, oh, yeah, it's safe. Or just take out Canada's document. Oh, yeah, no, it's safe. But surely it should be labeled. So they're telling you safety is not an issue. They're not mentioning the real issue. Should we be eating it at all? They're not. Yeah, and the sub-issue, should it be banned like it is in the EU? Well, they wouldn't mention the EU. They'll mention the FDA. They'll mention the FDA. Oh, yeah, no, the United States says that it's safe. So this is what a manufactured consent looks like. And so what the plan is, and, watch this happen unless we really get involved and stop it. So, and I have to back up and say, I have to thank Corey Huntsberger of Talk Truth, because he's the one that pointed out to me, you do know we're in a manufactured consent episode. And so, Corey basically said, look, it's so clear. The real issue is whether or not we should be eating cloned meat at all. They've raised this other issue of labeling. And so everyone's looking at labeling. And so this is how it works, is you avoid the real issue. You create a decoy issue, which the mainstream media has done. And then predictably, the public reacts, and we have reacted. So the public reacts and says, oh my gosh, we want labeling. This is outrageous. They're going to allow this to happen without labeling? Like, this is outrageous. So we're all, oh, there should be labeling. There should be labeling. Nobody is asking whether it should happen at all. None of the gross information that we're going to be raising in other videos, reasons why, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me that we would be allowing cloned meat in Canada? Are you kidding me? What an absolute joke fail this is. But anyway, so they've got us looking at the fake issue. And then predictably, and this was all planned, they said, oh, we're putting a pause on this because Canadians are concerned about this happening without labeling. No, this was all planned beforehand. They knew what they were going to do, and that would allow the mainstream media to divert our attention to the decoy issue, which they would then respond to and say, well, we're putting a pause. Now, you mark my words, unless we create together the political pressure to say, don't you dare do anything, let's ban this. What the plan is for them to wait for things to cool down. And then you just watch this. Health Canada will come back and say, well, we're going to allow cloned meat. We're going to declassify it as a novel food, which they'll have to do because otherwise somebody has to prove it's safe and there's no human safety studies and everyone else says it's horribly dangerous. And watch the other videos, you'll go, what? There's no way I'm eating this. So they'll come back. Health Canada's going to come back and say, well, people are, concerned about us entering it into the food supply without labeling. Well, we think it's safe, so we can't classify it as a novel food, but we're going to pass a special regulation or have special rules requiring extremely strict labeling so that everyone knows which meat is cloned and which meat isn't. And then what Canadians are going to do, and just watch, and the mainstream media, they're going to be all over this, making this happen. It'll be like, we won. We won. They were going to enter it without labeling. And we got all mad and the media made a fuss. And now they're going to label it. Finally, the government listened. Can you believe this? Citizens of Canada 1, Health Canada 0. When has that ever happened in our lives before where the government's actually responded to one of our concerns? My God, the system's working. Wow. I can't wait. I'm going to be so happy. And you're going to be so happy when they come back and say, hey, we're going to allow it, but with strict labeling. And then now we've got cloned meat in our food supply with strict labeling, because that was the decoy issue. And we've never actually had a public discussion. Should we be doing this in the first place? Because we've made the labeling an emotional issue. So we've stopped thinking about it. We've been completely diverted. So this is how Corey explained it. Maybe he didn't. Oh, no, he got more animated than I did. But anyway, so thank you, Corey Huntsberger, for pointing out to me that this is a clear case of manufactured consent, because absolutely it is. Now, where I would go beyond Corey's analysis is that when you read the Health Canada document, it's crystal clear why they want cloning, which means they're going to go further than just having it enter our food supply without labeling. They've got to get rid of the labeling. So what they say in their scientific document, and I'll just back up and say, like, it costs them way more money to raise cloned animals. I mean, they've got to take the nucleus out of a donor cell. They've got to take the genetic material out of an egg. They've got to put the donor DNA stuff in an egg. They're going to manipulate the egg to try and make it believe it's been fertilized. And there's, most of them aren't viable. And then a whole bunch of animals die in utero. And those that don't die in utero, they tend to be larger. So you've got to do a bunch more cesarean sections than you'd otherwise have to. And then a whole bunch die when they're really young. And those that do make it, for a little while, the medical costs are higher because they're more sickly. There's problems. So there's no economic reason. They're not doing this. Oh, cloned meat's going to be safe or cheaper. Not a chance. It's not going to be cheaper at all. It's going to be way more expensive. So why? If cloned meat's way more expensive, no one wants to eat it. And there truly are safety concerns. Why are we touching this with a 10-foot pole? Why is this an issue at all? Because there are reasons to get us eating cloned meat without labeling. But you got to get us eating it with labeling first. And then after it's been on the market for several years with labeling, and there isn't going to be a post-market surveillance system to look for any health problems caused by it. So they'll be deliberately blind to any safety signals. So after it's been in the marketplace for years, then they'll drop the labeling. The media will be very quiet about it or supportive about it. And Health Canada's rationale will be quite simply, well, listen, we've been eating it for years. You go to a restaurant, you're not even asking anymore. And we don't see any safety signals. So this is just an unnecessary precaution that we took. And, it could be hurting trade and other issues. They'll come up with a whole bunch of great little talking points. And you might be really mad, you might be really concerned, but there won't be the political will now because we've been eating it for years. For us to actually ban it, it'd be too late. So now we have cloned meat without labeling. But still, they're not going to be cloning meat to try and make money off us because it's way more expensive, it's way more problematic. So why do they want us eating cloned meat without labeling? Ooh, that's the question, isn't it? Because everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? We're going to go into way, way more detail in later videos, which you'll have to watch. And I'm even kind of debating whether to talk about it. But maybe I'll just mention the words biopharmaceutical, genetic modifications. It's in Health Canada's document. So I'm not going to go into detail here. The purpose of this video was just to make it super clear to you what a manufactured consent exercise is. Watch the other videos. You're going to be shocked. And, but it's just such a clear case. The next video is going to be on, well, how do we know we're in a manufactured consent situation? And you're going to be shocked. Thanks for watching.